Hey everyone, it's so great to chat with you today. Sometimes a book just hits you, right? It makes you pause, reflect, and see things in a completely new light. Well, for me, that book lately has been Conversations on Love by Natasha Lunn. It's not your typical self-help book, it's more like sitting down with a brilliant, kind friend who's had deep, honest conversations with writers, therapists, and experts about this thing we call love. And believe me, it's a deep dive. Natasha starts by admitting she was committed to longing for years. She was always waiting for a text back. And I love you, or for a man to look at her a certain way. She used to think she was longing for love, but realized she was actually obsessed with the idea of love, not the truth of it. Isn't that something we can all relate to? We expect so much from love. Yeah, we devote so little time to truly understanding it, like wanting to dive into the sea without learning to swim. The author realized that love leaks into all our lives every day, freely, cruelly, and beautifully. Her suspicion that she had misunderstood love completely was like a breadcrumb of curiosity she had to follow. This led her to start these conversations on love with so many fascinating people. So, what does it mean to find love? The book opens with Natasha's own 15-year-long crush on a guy named Ben. She collected details of his existence and forensic evidence. Their story was mostly in her mind, a nostalgic will-they-won't-they romance that never quite materialized in reality. She admits she idealized him, and the idea of an everlasting teenage love even more. This tendency to idealize to keep parts of herself hidden and to perform the role of a woman more palatable than I believed myself to be carried over into her 20s. Have you ever found yourself doing that? Pretending you want to see a horror film, or saying you don't need relationship labels just to be palatable? The psychiatrist Dr. Megan Poe explained that people often try to echolocate the other and not reveal the self, thinking that if they match the other person, they're a match. But this just makes you more insecure because you're not being yourself, and the other person gets confused too. As Adrienne Rich famously said, having self-respect means being able to say, I can live alone, if self-respect and circumstances require me to do so. Natasha realized she'd lost her inward treasure and traded her self-respect for a gut feeling that the men she dated were extraordinary. Clinical psychologist Dr. Frank Tallis confirmed that we often aggrandize our own confusion or lack of insight when there's no real intimacy, reaching for words like chemistry to explain a magnetic draw that lacks tangible evidence. Ultimately, Natasha realized her choice was to stay in the fantasies inside my head, or to climb out in life. It's a powerful realization, isn't it? The philosopher Alain de Botton really opens up the conversation about the search for love. He says that thinking if the search for a partner didn't work out then it would be a tragedy creates a frantic, unhelpful backdrop. He argues that the capacity to say, I could be alone, is strangely one of the most important guarantees of one day being with somebody else in a happy way. He highlights how our perception of being alone changes. Being alone on a Monday night is fine, but on a Saturday night it feels like something's wrong with us. Right? He reminds us that lots of dignified and capable people have, for one reason or another, found themselves on their own. And why about those moments when you feel you don't have love in your life, but you actually do? Elaine suggests that what we're really seeking within love is often connection, which isn't necessarily dependent on having a romantic relationship. He makes a profound point about the tragic misalignment of the hierarchy of friendships and relationships, noting that in early 19th century Germany, having a good friend was seen as more important than a lover. When it comes to the cliché about needing to love yourself before you can love someone else, Alain de Botton emphasizes self-understanding and the capacity to communicate it. He believes that acknowledging your brokenness and insufficiency is actually a romantic thing to do, fostering connection, whereas over-intensive self-admiration can cut you off from others, and how easily we can lose ourselves in a relationship. He explains that we receive data from our emotional selves, but it can be overruled by data we get from other people. It's about how much fidelity we bring to being certain of our own feelings. Aisha Malik, an author, shares her journey of expanding her view of love beyond a narrow, idealized version involving only a romantic partner. she realized that the expectation that someone will save you from who you are, or from what you have or don't have, is a fallacy. She found profound love in her friendships and in her faith, which provided a solid and consistent anchor. She also found love in her work, noting that writing provides a sense of belonging and grounding that she might otherwise seek solely in a partner. The shift in perspective allowed her to see love as a part of the puzzle of her life, not the full picture. Psychotherapist Philippa Perry contributes a refreshing idea: nobody is right for anyone. She argues that what makes somebody right is commitment, where you allow the other to impact upon you and they allow you to impact on them. She calls this mutual impact, which is different from adaptation, where you morph out of shape to please the other. She also highlights how important it is to like and love yourself when you are with someone, and how true intimacy involves showing your vulnerabilities and being accepted. For her, a key sign of a bad relationship is feeling lonely or diminished when a partner is having a relationship with their fantasy of you. The author Juna Dawson, who transitioned later in life, shares how prior to that, love was impossible because she was trying to be somebody that I wasn't a man. She made the courageous choice to be herself, even if it meant being single, and discovered a world of love waiting for me post-transition. She found that when you've figured out who you are and are done playing games, dating becomes different. She offers a vital lesson: no one is too busy to reply to a fucking text message. And crucially, if a relationship feels like a fight, don't waste your time. So, moving into how we sustain love, Natasha shares her deeply personal story of miscarrying and the subsequent struggle to conceive. This period, she reflects, forced her to learn that a relationship isn't a course you can study for and then complete. Instead, it is a decision you make every day to build something meaningful with another person. She learned that love is rarely a pristine story, containing painfully slow taxi rides, orgasms and diarrhea, promotions and debt, and that we have to rebuild the relationships we value again and again. The honeymoon period, she argues, doesn't wane, the tenderness of love deepens. Author Roxane Gay, a self-proclaimed romantic, admits she used to create elaborate fictions for her relationships. Now she's more interested in the love that deepens over time. She finds joy in loving her partner as much as being loved by her, emphasizing the importance of feeling cared for at all times, being truly seen, being accepted for who I am, the good and the bad, and being held to a high standard. Surprisingly, she found that when you find the right person, it's not a lot of work, it's more like maintenance. For her, marriage is about vows, accountability, and the shared commitment to stick it out no matter what. She also stresses the importance of having a rich life outside of the marriage, with work, friends, and self, so that her partner doesn't have to fix everything and be everything for her. Author Mara Jacob, married for over 2 decades, offers insights into the longevity of love. She acknowledges the fragility of older love, saying it always feels somewhat treacherous to keep going. But this fragility, she believes, makes it more passionate because it ensures you don't take love for granted. A key lesson from her experience is that change happens constantly in a relationship, and you don't ever really choose a person because they change. And your lives do too. The work of raising your partner again and again is what a marriage is about. And for her, sex is the dream life of a marriage, a subconscious language that reveals things the mind can't yet process. Sex educator Emily Nagoski challenges common myths about desire. She explains that in the early stages of a relationship, the brain drives a chemical process to bond, making us want sex more urgently. But ironically, when a connection is secure, your brain doesn't need to reinforce the attachment. She asserts that desire is bullshit if it's based on insecurity. She points out that spontaneous desire isn't on the list of characteristics for extraordinary, optimal sex from Peggy Kleinplus's research, nor is frequency. Instead, what matters is being fully present, connected, empathetic, authentic, vulnerable, and willing to explore. She suggests that sometimes the goal should be to simply turn off the brake of anxiety and self-judgment, rather than constantly trying to hit the accelerator. She also wisely notes that scheduling sex in a long-term relationship is normal, and it requires effort and anticipation, just like dating did. Relationship coach Susan Quilliam says the most common reason love goes wrong is a lack of self-reflection and self-understanding. She argues that the biggest mistake couples make is losing kindness once they become enmeshed. The security of the relationship can become its enemy, allowing partners to treat each other badly in ways they wouldn't with strangers. She advocates for interdependence, a balance where lives are intertwined but individuals retain their identity. The ability to self-reflect and self-regulate emotions is crucial, as is taking responsibility for your own feelings. She says love is infinitely harder and infinitely more glorious than I'd ever imagined. Natasha beautifully summarizes this as standing in love, implying emotional maturity, balance, and the gift of spaciousness to your partner. Esther Perel, a renowned couples therapist, talks about the immense expectations we place on our romantic partners today. She says that in the last 20 years, we've lost 30 to 60% of our social connections, and all this loss of social categories has been siphoned into the marital relationship. We now expect our romantic partner to provide what a whole village used to provide. She notes that happiness is not a pursuit these days, it's a mandate, leading to a consumer mentality where people leave relationships believing they could be happier. Esther believes that marriage still has value, but it needs to be adaptable and flexible. She stresses the importance of open conversations, even about difficult topics like infidelity, to prevent concealment. For her, love is not a state of enthusiasm, it's a verb. It implies action, demonstration, ritual practices, communication, expression. The book then explores how we can survive losing love, starting with Natasha's personal experience of a miscarriage. She describes the profound loss of an imagined future to baby and the life they might have had. It's a sadness that chooses its own timeline. She realized that love and loss were not separate, consecutive stages, but two sides of the same coin. Justine Picardy shares her experience of grief after her sister's death and later her divorce. She learned that you never entirely get over it, but you do rise to the challenge. Until eventually you live with the loss and it becomes part of you. Her sister's enduring love encouraged her to keep cherishing the good in life and not live in constant fear. She also found love again after her divorce, an act of courage that taught her not to confuse love with anxiety. Journalist Melanie Reid, who became tetraplegic after an accident, offers a stark perspective on enduring immense loss. She states that what we blindly call love, we take for granted. She learned that if love is tested that hard and it can't withstand it, then it can't withstand it. But what you can be sure of is that if love survives these massive tests, then you've got something pretty gold-plated. She also discovered a beautiful undercurrent of kindness and love that exists between us all, especially from strangers when she was most vulnerable. This reminds us of the power of small kind gestures, like a gentle nod from a coffee barista or a British Airways representative offering compassion. Psychotherapist Stephen Gross suggests that life is a series of necessary losses. From birth, we let go of the womb for the world. Dress for solid food, home for school, development demands loss, which is unbearable but necessary for growth. He also notes that accepting love requires accepting the possibility of loss, and negativity prevents our surrender to love if we only see the loss love entails. Love, he says, is the extremely difficult realization that something other than oneself is real. Author Ariel Levy, who experienced the death of her son and the end of her marriage weeks apart, found a liberating truth: you will not always get what you want. You control nothing. This acceptance was a crucial coping strategy. She fell in love amidst profound grief, and while it didn't fix her pain, it became a source of joy. She learned that grief is isolating, something we must move through on our own, yet also something too much to bear alone. Ultimately, loss is part of the deal. It's part of being a person. It's part of what it means to be alive. Gary Young, whose mother died suddenly when he was 19, learned a crucial lesson: the understanding that no one's going to find a good life for you. You have to find it for yourself. This acute awareness of his mortality made him prioritize experience over wealth and pursue present happiness, refusing deferred gratification. He jokes that the worst thing that could happen to me already had, giving him a calculated sense of fearlessness. Lisa Taddeo reminds us that grief is not a competition, and comparing pain hurts each other unnecessarily, often because of our own shame. She lives with the fear of losing people, and for her, grief doesn't relent, but her profound understanding of the isolation of grief drives her to connect with people in pain. sharing their stories so no one else feels as alone. Finally, Dr. Lucy Calenthy, whose husband Paul died of lung cancer at 36, shares a powerful truth: love is not the only thing that matters. She echoes Viktor Frankl's three sources of meaning: love, purposeful work, and courage in the face of difficulty. She believes that understanding that the people you love will suffer, and also that you will be there holding their hand, and that is an important part of loving them. For her, the romance of marriage is in the hard part, not in the kiss. Natasha's own journey culminates in realizing that love is a choice, an intention, not just a feeling that strikes you. Even with her baby daughter, Joni, love folded out into my life, slowly and steadily, deepening with time and knowledge. She realizes that love is a choice, and sometimes it's choosing to love someone even when we don't feel lovingly towards them. So what does it all come down to? The book doesn't offer a magic set of answers, but it profoundly expands our understanding of love. It's not a narrow thing. It's a big boundless force that exists in so many forms and acts. It's in a grandmother's love, a friend's birthday itinerary, a writer carving out space for their craft, or a partner's post-it note. Secondly, and perhaps most importantly, the book leaves us with a fresh determination to pay attention. There are so many distractions, from life to falls to the great fear of future loss. We have to fight small battles every day to notice the love that's right in front of us, to remember to do the little acts that say, "I'm here." It's about being self-aware enough to catch ourselves before making mistakes. As Sarah Hapola noted, people who are best at staying present develop strategies like prayer, meditation, or gratitude. This book is an invitation to see love in a more expansive way, to realize that you don't just find love, you create it. By understanding you are part of something bigger. It's a quest, a promise, a home, a force we create with cups of tea and tenderness, with humor and I'm sorries. It's about cherishing the people who add joy to our lives and making the conscious choice to hold on to them. Ultimately, Natasha Lund hopes that on her last day she'll look back and know that she knew love when she felt it. Remembering that love is astonishing, life is astonishing. How grateful I am, not only to have known love, but to have known just how important it was, to pay attention to it. This book genuinely makes you think, how could I love better? And that, my friends, is a question worth living. I really encourage you to pick up this book. It might just change how you see your own story of love.